Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. And I'm going to start it off with an article on CBSnews.com titled, Trump says Iran strikes were last best chance to take out missiles, nuclear threat, which, this article's been updating itself because when I originally pulled it up, it was the title was Trump says he does not rule out boots on the ground in Iran. And, it's been a very exciting weekend going into this week. And, this is this is probably going to be at least with my lessons this week, a lot of things centered around this U.S.-Israeli war with Iran because it's a major part of biblical prophecy. So, if you find that boring, go watch some videos of some hoes twerking or go look at Jim Carrey's new face. But hey, these are the times we have been, prophesying about and diligently waiting for. There's really only, two last major prophecies to take place. The War of Armageddon, or the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat over in Western Asia, which, people ignorantly refer to as the Middle East, and the mandatory implementation of the mark of the BEAST in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 18, which is the micro C-hip implant. And, they intertwine with each other. So if, this war is brewing, that means that the mark is not too far behind. But the article reads, President Trump said the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran represented the last best chance of addressing the threat posed by the Islamic Republic's ballistic missiles and nuclear program. He also said the administration expects the campaign to last 4 to 5 weeks, but we have the capability to go far longer than that. And, I was watching a video by the Prepared Homestead with, Travis Maddox. And, even he was speculating on the accuracy of these numbers. But the information he was presenting was saying that the U.S. has maybe a couple of days to weeks left of missiles, while Iran says they've got 3 to 5 years left of missiles. So, hey, this is definitely going to go on, longer than 4 to 5 weeks. And then, of course, there's just so much, information coming out by the hour that it's hard to keep up. Over in Kuwait, some U.S. fighter jets were accidentally shot down by friendly fire. I believe right now it's up to 4 U.S. service members that have been killed. Israeli nuclear reactor facility was hit by Iranian missiles. Iran's just shooting missiles everywhere, and the U.S. and Israel are shooting missiles back at them. Speaking at a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House, the president said Iran ignored the United States' warnings to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. He said the regime's rapidly growing conventional ballistic missile program posed a very clear, colossal threat to the U.S. and forces stationed overseas. Looking where, that's just going into some events that have taken place. But here's where I wanted to get to. In an interview earlier in the day, he refused to rule out the use of ground troops, saying he wouldn't hesitate to deploy them if they were necessary. I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground. Like every president says, there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. The president told the New York Post, I say probably don't need them, or if they were necessary. But in a briefing Monday morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth likewise declined to rule out the use of ground troops. He said there are not currently any U.S. service members on the ground in Iran, but added, We're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do. But best believe there will be boots in the ground in Western Asia. And it's all a part of prophecy. This is Joel chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, the North American Army, the United States military, all branches, which, in the weeks leading up to these strikes over the weekend, the U.S. was moving a lot of hardware and soldiers into that region. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, like what? A desert, Western Asia, with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part toward the utmost sea. And here's a map, from Fox News of Western Asia and the recent retaliatory strikes from Iran, which you can see they've been hitting in Kuwait, Bahrain, where you have the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, the UAE, et cetera, et cetera. But here's a map, and the main staging ground for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat is going to be Saudi Arabia, which, you got it all in red in the middle. And, every major war that the U.S. has waged in that region has been from bases in Saudi Arabia. So you have Saudi Arabia right here, a land barren and desolate, and what did it say? With his face toward the east sea. And what's toward the east? The Persian Gulf, and on top of it, Iran. And then where you see that little tip where you've got Abu Dhabi marked, that's the Strait of Hormuz, which, there's talks of Iran, closing that down, which 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz. So that's going to be a major, factor to further disrupt things. And then what did it also say? With his hinder part or behind him toward the utmost sea or the Red Sea, which, you've got those Houthi Yemeni rebels that were, going at it with the U.S. Navy in the Red Sea, about a year ago or so. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. And there's going to be a great slaughter of U.S. military personnel in Western Asia during the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Hey, if 4 dead service members has got you queasy right now, hey, you better buckle up. Mr. Trump said the U.S. military will easily prevail over the Iranian regime. But hey, according to biblical prophecy, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up. Because while it's just, the U.S. and Israel batting it out with Iran right now, according to Ezekiel 38, Gog is going to get involved, which is Russia. And then, China's going to get involved, and it's going to become the bigger World War III, which in Revelation 9, verse 12, it speaks of the 3 world wars. One woe, World War I is past, and behold, 2 woes more come hereafter, World War II and World War III, which, for all intents and purposes, you can say, we're in the beginning stages of it. He hinted that the timeline for the war may drag on longer than initially 4 or 5 weeks he mentioned previously. That's it with this article. But hey, very beautiful and exciting times we're living in. But like I said, at the beginning of the video, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat in Joel 3, verse 9, and the mark of the beast in Revelation 13 are synonymous with each other. World War III won't go full bore and end with nuclear missiles until the mark of the beast is mandatorily implemented. So things are just going to keep ramping up exponentially until that point. As it says in Matthew chapter 24, I'm going to read verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars, war with Iran, war with Ukraine, wars between the U.S. and China and Russia, Slovakia, and rumors of wars. That's the rumors part. War between the U.S. and China, the US and Russia, what? Taiwan and China, all these things. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And as it further says in verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. We're just in the beginning stages. The climax won't take place until that mark is rolled out and mandatorily implemented, which that's also right around the corner and is synonymous, with this war brewing against Iran, which I'm going to play this clip from Cash Unate's Instagram page, talking about, a financial digital aspect to U.S. and Israeli regime change in Iran. And when you think of digital, what should come to mind? Digital currencies, a cashless society, digital and biometric IDs, ultimately, what? That mark. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. Listen closely.
The war is a distraction from this.
Wait, it's not about their nukes?
No. Iran's central bank counts because their oil and energy is very important, including for China. If you're going to come out with programmable money,
with a revolutionary new payment system,
programmable money,
with digital IDs that are interoperable globally, that controls in each jurisdiction centrally, you can't afford leakage. Iran right now is the big leakage in the system. Now, Larry Fink,
because they don't have a Rothschild central bank. And remember, back in the run-up to the war in Iraq, back in 2002, 2003, you had a former General Wesley Clark say that there was a memo that the U.S. planned to take down 7 African and Western Asian countries in 5 years, and the final nation was Iran. And it also included Libya, Sudan, I think Syria was in there, and Iraq. And we can see what's been the fate of those countries over these over the last decade or so.
and BlackRock have said
we need to move very rapidly.
They're planning on trading all stocks and bonds using tokens.
All investments on a tokenized platform.
What it means is this is going to be,
we have one common blockchain.
Potentially $100, $200, $300 trillion market. $100, $200, $300 trillion market.
The wars, the Epstein files, the aliens, AI, it's all to keep you from the truth. The power brokers are trying to preserve US dollar dominance at any costs. All the value is converging into precious metals and soon the digital rails. Put your faith in God and...
Hey, they're not trying to preserve the US dollar. They're trying to bring about that new system, that digital system, that great RESET, where the plan is for everybody to live in 15-minute cities, eating bugs, only having 2 to 3 pairs of clothes for each year, not traveling on airplanes or in cars, but ultimately having that micro C-hip implant in you. And as we just saw in this clip, hey, this war in Iran, and the push for this digital system, these tokenized, currencies and blockchains, hey, they're playing in tandem with each other. And like I've been saying throughout the video, the true end of World War III won't come until that C-hip, and then that's when the fireworks really begin. But this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 16, and he calleth all, that he being the elites, who are Edomites, or so-called white people, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, these elite and banking families, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MARK in their right hands or in their foreheads, that micro C-hip implant, which, you can easily look up and see that it's out here. It just hasn't been fully pushed and normalized yet. You got companies like Walletmore over in Sweden. You've got tens of thousands of people with the C-hip. And then what do you have with the forehead? Companies like Neuralink, Slovakia. and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And you won't be able to do anything in society without it. You're going to need to be on that digital blockchain. And it's going to get so serious out here when it's mandatorily implemented that people will be faced with death for not receiving it. But when these things take place, hey, things are going to speed up exponentially to get to the climax of World War III, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Which brings us to Revelation 14, verses 9 to 10. Because notice what it says happens after, people, the majority of people receive that mark. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, that sea-hip and the image of the beast are the financial, political, and military aspects of this last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2, those iron toes mixed with miry clay, which is this NATO EU system that the U.S. is a part of and at the head of, the reincarnated Roman Empire. And just recently, you had, the heads of Germany, Britain, Canada, and, even France saying, look, we support the U.S., the U.S.'s war against Iran, and, we're going to do what we can to help out. Keir Starmer of Britain said we're going to allow the U.S. to strike Iran from British bases. Verse 10, this is what happens to those that receive that mark. The same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, the Son of God, whose true name is Yahushai. But that fire and brimstone is talking about nuclear missiles, which are going to be shot to the ends of the earth during World War III. And it remains to be seen, what's going to happen, to all the people, or the majority of the people outside of America that received that sea-hip. But everybody inside of America that receives, the mark is going to be burned up with America during World War III, which is going to be completely wiped off the face of the earth. And the land of Israel is also going to be cleansed, by nuclear fire. So as we can see, everything plays in tandem with each other. You see the war in Iran brewing, but as it said back in Matthew 24, verse 6, but the end is not yet. We still need the mark to be rolled out and mandatorily implemented, and then that's when the fire and brimstone comes. But yeah, now I'm going to close it out. In Isaiah chapter 34, verse 1, which just makes, it that much plainer. And the header reads, God's wrath against the nations, the heathen nations. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let all the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it, which you're hearing by the words of the prophets of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Seeing these current events and filtering them through biblical prophecy to let you know what times you're in, and chiefly of the men of GMS or Great Millstone, who is the main camp and one of the only camps that hasn't wavered on what the mark of the beast is and is telling you exactly what it is, that sea-hip. For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. Joel chapter 3, verse 9, I will gather them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat in Western Asia, the northern army being brought down into a land barren and desolate. He hath utterly destroyed them, he hath delivered them to the slaughter, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up. A great slaughter of the U.S. and other heathens' militaries in the valley of Jehoshaphat. So we see it's talking about this battle over in Western Asia. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And let's see what happens in the midst of this. and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. And what that's talking about is the mushroom cloud from nuclear missiles, which, when you look at the mushroom cloud, you have the detonation, that explosion goes up, and then that cloud billows or rolls into itself like a scroll. So it's talking about the war. Then it talks about what? Nukes. And as we read in Revelation 14, after those people received the mark, then they were slain with that fire and brimstone. And all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. Verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. And Idumea is just the Greek way of saying Edom, you so-called white people. So the sword of the Lord, those nuclear missiles, are going to come down upon you Edomites. Everywhere you Edomites dwell are going to be hit by nuclear missiles, but places outside of the land of Israel, Slakia, places outside of America are going to be rebuilt. The land of Israel is going to be rebuilt and inhabited by the true Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And, other places, they're going to have Edomites still alive to be slaves in the kingdom of heaven and to bring back all you Edomites in America that were destroyed by these nuclear missiles, because that's going to be the only place that will never be inhabited again, as it's about to go into. The sword of Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and of goats, with the fat of the kidneys of the rams. For Yahweh hath a sacrifice in Basra, and Basra was an ancient chief city of the Edomites. So modern day Basra would be America. And, it's talking about the fat of goats and blood of lambs and rams. It's symbolic of how America is going to be the biggest sacrificial altar on the face of the earth, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. And the unicorns shall come down with them, talking about satellites, getting hit by missiles and taken down, which, you've got these different space forces being built up. And a couple of years ago, Russia was talking about nuclear capable satellite killer missiles and the bullocks. And then, of course, you're going to have the chariots of the Lord, which people ignorantly refer to as so-called UFOs, shooting down those satellites. And the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. For it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. And when you go to Joel chapter 3, verses 1-2, it talks about why the Lord is ultimately gathering these nations down into, the valley of Jehoshaphat to judge them for afflicting his people, the Israelites. Again, your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch. Rivers and streams getting boiled up and disintegrated, cities getting destroyed, people, forests, all those things getting destroyed and being turned into a desert. It shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever, which just means for a very long time. Because what? You've got these nuclear reactors, refineries, missile facilities, a lot of things that can burn in this country, burning, which is gonna last for a minute until it burns itself out. From generation to generation it shall lie waste, none shall pass through it forever and ever. Man, woman, or child will never set foot on America again after those missiles hit this place. And after a time, when the dust settles, so to speak, only harsh desert creatures are going to dwell here. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl and also the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. And the line of confusion just means that, you won't be able to tell Louisiana from Oklahoma Think about it like an Etch-a-Sketch. You know, you draw an image of something there, but when you shake it up, the image disappears. America's just going to be the biggest contiguous desert on the face of the earth. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons and a court of owls. The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there, and find for herself a place of rest. There shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch, and gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. Last verse. Seek ye out of the book of Yahweh and read the Bible, the Apocrypha included. No one of these shall fail. Speaking of these prophecies, none shall want her mate, because there's no other book, philosophy, religion, scientific method, historical document that can compare to the 144% accuracy of the scriptures. As we've been going into, everything that was spoken of thousands of years ago by the prophets is lining up with current events. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. That's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharella, and until next time, Shalom.